To be back in the Senate today to introduce Betsy DeVos for your consideration as the next Secretary of Education. I met Betsy several years ago in one of the many bipartisan efforts to improve the quality of education of America's children that she and so many others of you have been involved in. When I left the Senate as a way to continue my own work on education reform, I became a member of the board of the American Federation for Children, the nonprofit organization that Betsy DeVos founded to provide better education options for lower-income children throughout America. I'm very proud of what the AFC has achieved, particularly at the state level. More than 400,000 lower-income families have been empowered with financial support to take their children out of schools where they thought the kids were not getting an adequate education and put them into schools that they thought were better. For me, as a Democrat, it is especially gratifying that many of these AFC state programs have been enacted with bipartisan support in state legislatures. None of the progress which the AFC has achieved very specifically for those 400,000 plus kids would have occurred without Betsy's leadership, which is inclusive and motivating. She is disciplined, organized, knows how to set goals, and then develop practical plans to achieve them. She is really a purpose-driven team builder, and I've seen that in my membership on the board of the AFC. Now, I understand that the Department of Education is bigger than anything she, or for that matter, most any of us, except for Senator Alexander, of course, has ever led. But everything I have seen tells me that Betsy is ready to take on this assignment and do it very well. I know that some people are questioning her qualifications to be Secretary of Education, and too many of those questions to me seem to be based on the fact that she doesn't come from within the education establishment. But honestly, I believe that today that's one of the most important qualifications you could have for this job. And she has many others. She's a mother and a grandmother. She cares about children more generally and has been involved in education like so many parents and local citizen school board members across America for almost 30 years. Her involvement has not just been as a philanthropist and advocate for reform, though she has been a real leader in both. She also mentors students in the public schools of Grand Rapids, Michigan. And here's another important qualification I think Betsy has for this job. She will ask the right questions, such as, is this federal education program working? Is it giving our kids the education they need to live productive and satisfying lives? If not, how can we improve it? An examination of the facts of the state of American education today makes clear that although current federal education programs are working for many of our children, they are failing millions of others. And here are just a few of the salient and, to me, troubling facts. Among all students of all income groups, less than 40% of high school graduates are college or career ready, according to the ACT. A recent report said that only 35% of eighth graders were proficient on the NAEP reading exam and only 34% on the math exam. In other words, about 2/3 of eighth graders in our country are not proficient in reading and math. Proficient is the middle, as the members of the committee know, middle ranking under the NAEP. Among lower income students, the weight of these shortcomings in the educational status quo falls disproportionately heavily. there are too many ways to illustrate this, but let me just give this one example. There are more than 1,200 high schools in America who have more than 1.1 million students that fail to graduate from high school, at least 1/3 of their students. Some, as many as more than half the students, don't make it to high school graduation. And these schools primarily educate low-income students and students of color. These low graduation rate high schools are located in both urban and rural areas, and they're in almost every state. New York has 199 of them, Georgia 115, California 105, and Alabama and Mississippi each more than 50. These are jarring numbers, and I think they cry out for national education reform. We're just not keeping our founders' promise of equal opportunity. We're not preparing the next generation of Americans to enable our economy to compete successfully in the world. We just can't accept the status quo in education anymore. We need a change agent and an education reformer to be education secretary. A leader who has one big goal, which is to give every child in America, regardless of family income or zip code, a first-class education. And that is exactly the kind of education secretary I believe Betsy DeVos can and will be. Now, because Betsy has been fighting for reform and disrupting the status quo for so long, her nomination is naturally controversial. After all, she has directly challenged the education establishment by supporting charter schools and other school choice programs. But I can tell you that in all my work with her, I have never heard Betsy speak against our public school system. I have heard her ask what we can do for the low-income kids who are trapped in bad public schools until we can make more of our public schools as good as they should be. Is it fair to stand back and not help the parents who want better for their children but can't get it just because they can't afford it? Is it acceptable to have so many children from all income groups graduate from our high schools unprepared for college and the high-tech economy they will enter?
No, you're right.
No, it is not. And that's why, Mr. Chairman, Senator Murray, members of the committee, I hope you'll confirm Betsy DeVos' nomination to be Secretary of Education. I think it's in our national interest to give her a chance to change the status quo in our schools and secure a better future for our country and for all of our children. Thank you very much.
Thank you.